Hey crafty friends, it's Kathya. Welcome to my channel. In this video I'm going to show you how to make easy 2-for-1 window pop-out cards you could possibly even do mass producing. So this video was inspired by celebrity card maker and genius Jennifer McGuire. I'm not going to lie, I'm always inspired by her work. Well, after watching her video of the window pop-out cards, I set out to try and figure out a way to figure out how to make the mechanism that works inside from one piece of cardstock. And not only did I figure that out, I was able to arrange it so that you have two mechanisms using one sheet of cardstock. Now what you see on screen here is what you can download from my website under the freebies category, and I'll link to that below. So what you see here that I'm pointing out for you here is the older version. I updated it. I instructed you where to put the tape, that sort of thing, and also the cutting lines. So this will help you if you download this template. So what you're looking at now are the interior parts of the mechanism that I'm demonstrating here. And this will help you, give you a guide on how to do this really quickly so that you don't have to mess around with tabs or anything like that. So it's pretty cool. So the first thing you're going to do is on the 8.5 by 11 side, on the 8.5 side, you're going to cut 1/4 inch off of the end of your cardstock. So it's a little bit out of frame, but I'm just cutting off 1/4 of an inch. So now your cardstock should measure 8.25 by 11. So on the 8.25 side, you are going to score at 2 inches, 4.25, and 6.25. So I'll demonstrate that here. So we're going to just use the guides here, and these guides didn't really change. So we're scoring on the 2 inch, the 4.25, and 6.25. Okay, so here we go. Using my stylus, I'm scoring at 2 inches, 4.25, and 6.25. So here's what's great about this. On each side of those pieces, that piece of cardstock, it measures 2 inches for each score line, so it doesn't matter which way you flip it on this end. Okay, so now we're going to flip the cardstock on the 11-inch side, and we're only going to be scoring up to the 2-inch vertical line that you just created. So see this line right here? We're only scoring up to that, and we're doing that 4 times, and the measurements are also on this guide. So the first one is 1/2 inch. So we're doing it up to the vertical line at 1/2 inch, 5 inches, 6 inches, and 10.5. So let's do that right now. So we're at the 1/2 inch. We're going to go right up to that 2-inch score line right there that we created vertically. So stop right there. Go to 5 inches is the next one. 6 inches is the next one. And then 10.5. And now we are finished with all of our scoring. So now I'm going to give you a close-up of what you should see. So there's the 5 and the 6 mark, and the 10.5, and the first one was the 1/2 inch mark. Okay, so now you have to pick a side, and what I mean by that is you're going to adhere double-sided adhesive on one side of each one of those 1/2 inch score lines that you created. So this is going to be the front where I put the first piece of adhesive down, and then you're going to put 4 pieces of scoring tape or double-sided adhesive on the front parts of those tabs. So those are going to become your tabs. And I'm a little out of frame here, so I apologize for that, but you'll see. I'll give you a close-up here in just a minute. Okay, so here is my other piece. So I have the first one at 1/2 inch, then that next one at 5 inches, and I'm just putting this double-sided adhesive right up against those score marks that I had just created. So you're going to have 4 pieces on the front and 2 long pieces on the back, and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so the last piece goes on the last tab, which we had folded or scored at 10.5 inches. I'm going to flip that over and cut all of that excess adhesive tape off. But before I do that, I'm going to put the 2 longer pieces that are going to be right up against the edge of the cardstock and right up to the first score line. So I'm going to show this to you so that you can kind of get an idea. And what we're doing here basically is we're preventing ourselves from having to do all of this adhesive at the last minute when we're doing each one of these pieces. So this is just going to save you time if you just do this right now. So in essence, you're putting 2 very long strips on the back piece, which is what you see right here on screen. And I'm just going to cut off the excess. And then the front side is where you put those smaller pieces of tape on the tabs. So again, I'm going to show you a close-up here. You have 4 pieces of double-sided adhesive on the top ports. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then on the back, if you flip it over, you've got the two long pieces. Well, in my case, I had to put an extra strip because I didn't cut my tape long enough. But there you go. So that's the whole mechanism. And now we're just going to do some simple cutting. So because this paper is, or this piece of cardstock is 8.5 by 11, I'm sorry, 8.25 by 11, I'm simply going to just cut it down the middle now. So now I have two mechanisms ready to go, and then there's 3 more pieces that we have to cut for each piece, and it couldn't even be more simple, and I'll show you how. Okay, so now you're going to want to cut up against each one of those pieces of double-sided adhesive. You want to cut right there and right there up to that 2-inch score mark. And the reason it was a score mark is because it's a perfect way to guide you on where to cut. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Now this works just as well with a paper trimmer, so you can do that, or you can just use a pair of scissors. You just fold those flaps to get them out of the way while you cut, and you are good to go. Okay, and see this flap here? That is the piece we are going to cut off. Completely remove it. So again, you can do this with a paper trimmer or you can do it with scissors. I basically just am folding those 2 flaps out of the way, and then I'm just going to cut up on that score line. And it's perfect because it's already a guide for me, and trim that off and finished. So here is the mechanism. So now you've got the 2 tabs up at the front that have that adhesive, and all I'm doing here is just cutting away a tiny bit of the edge so that it comes in just a little bit, just in case you happen not to get your paper aligned directly on the cardstock. This will be a little bit more forgiving and it'll be less noticeable when you adhere it. Okay, so now I'm going to fold over that flap. Now here's the part where you have the double-sided adhesive on the back, those 2 strips. So what's nice is you don't need to align them because you just did that at the very beginning before you cut down the center to create this mechanism. And then again, fold over here like this, score that really well. Make a nice crease. And so here is the mechanism all in one piece. So I'm going to be just demonstrating this mechanism without doing a cutaway in the panel. So this is just to give a demonstration of how you would do this, but I will show you a card of how I made about 3 of them, 2 of them from one piece of cardstock, and the other one was a test to see if this mechanism would work the way I had designed it, and it does. So here I am pulling away the back pieces of the release paper, and this is the piece that's going to sit flush up against the edge of your card on the right-hand side. So I'm going to be using my scoreboard here, and that's going to help me align the mechanism directly to the edge of my card panel. And I almost made a mistake here and tried to pull it up, but it was a little too stuck down, so to speak, so I just left it in place. So this helped me get it aligned, and I'm like, well, I could probably pull it in a little bit. Am I going to try to pull it off? But I just left it as is. So now, do you see how those tabs come right up to the edge? I'm going to trim just a tiny bit away from each, just so that there's no interference when I actually put this piece of cardstock down to adhere it to the front panel. So just 2 tiny little pieces that will help it keep free of that crease in the middle of the score line of the card base. So see how it doesn't come all the way to the edge? That's kind of what you want. Otherwise it might interfere. So just make sure it's not too long. So I'm pulling off the release paper, and here's the moment where you put the card down over itself and adhere those on there. And this is how your card works. Boom, all in one piece. So I hope this helps. Now stick around because I'm actually going to show you how I created a card with this whole template. So the one you're looking at right now is outdated, and the newer one that you can download is on my website. Just go to the freebie site. So it's calaninedesigns.com, and just click on the freebies at the very top right hand section of the website, and you'll be able to download that template. So something new I'm using in my stash is what I found online on Amazon, and it's called highlighter tape. Now, highlighter tape will stick to something, but not, it's super gentle. So it's just like that Easy See tape. It's just I think it's probably the same product, but it's far less expensive. So I'm using that here to adhere this piece of gray cardstock down over my card panel. So the reason I'm doing this is because I found it would be a lot easier to create a cut line directly on my cardstock base by putting my 65-pound piece of gray cardstock right on top. So I'm just aligning it here. And I thought, well, if it doesn't cut all the way through, what I can do is use the impression or the indentation that square die cut will do. It will actually just leave an impression and I'll know exactly where to place it. But lo and behold, I didn't have to do that. It worked out beautifully and it cut right through. So after I cut that window out of the upper portion of my card panel and the base, I decided it would be really cool to take that gray cardstock and run it through an embossing folder. So I put an embossing folder on that and I love the dimension that that gives. So that's all done now. And here I am taking that second piece of the folding mechanism, the window card pop-up element. I'm tongue-tied today, guys. Yikes. Anyway, so I figured I will put this up in my score tool here again, and this is where I think I was like, oh my goodness, I need to pull this up. Do I leave it? And I just left it. I just decided, okay, I'm going to just leave this right where it is. But having a tool to help you align it so that you can get it just perfectly straight is really helpful. And I should have, in theory, this is where I was like trying to pull it up. I'm like, nope, I gotta leave this. I just have to run with it and make do. So I did. I just adhered it all the way down on that side there and then did the rest of my folds. And here's where I realized, like, wait a minute, you forgot to cut out the center portion, but it doesn't matter. You can still do it very easily. So I did that. So I'm just making a nice crease here with my bone folder and get it nice and flat as I can get it. And then I'm going to take scissors and just so even if you forget to do this, you can do this at the last minute like I'm doing here. So again, you just cut up to that 2-inch score line and then you're going to move those flaps out of the way and then you're going to just cut that one section off. And don't forget to put your flaps so that they're entirely out of the way. You don't want to cut those off because that's the whole premise of this video, right? Okay, again, so we're going to do some minor edits here, but do you see how that piece of paper right up at the top just sometimes may not align perfectly with the edge of your card base panel? That's where you want to trim a little bit off the off the side just at an angle so that you can sort of have that a little bit hidden. So I'm just shaving off just a tiny piece here, and I'm going to do the other side just at the same angle. And it doesn't have to be precise because this is the part that's going to be hidden and nobody will see it. So you don't have to stress and worry about that it's not perfect. And then again, see how it comes right up to the center of the score line in the middle of the card panel? I want to make sure I take off just a tiny bit of the edge of each one of those tabs. So you can take off as much as you like, but you don't have to worry about exactly how much, and it doesn't have to align perfectly on each side, so don't worry about that. You could incidentally, if you want, when you have the whole piece of 11 by 8 and 8.25, you could trim it off then as well, so it really wouldn't matter. It's all entirely up to you, but these are just minor adjustments that you have to make before you adhere the card panel down. So okay, so now it's flat. I'm going to close the front, and then here's the moment of truth. Here you go. Yay, it's all just one piece and I love that. Less bulky. Definitely try to make sure that you score that line really well and get it nice and flat so that it goes through the mail easily. And now that cutout piece I can put right in the middle. And this is how I finished off the card. And I think by now everybody has seen these types of flowers. They're the Spellbinders Be Bold Beautiful something or other. I'll link it down below in my description for the YouTube channel, and you can take a peek at that. But that's how I finished this one. With the other one, I did kind of the same concept, but instead of a square, I used a cutout with a circle. And I think this turned out super darling, and I love this one just as much. And that is also a little bird cutout from a Spellbinders die cuts. So I just finished it off with some silver baubles there and put a sentiment right on the front. And I did an embossing folder. I think that's from Altenew. And then here's the other one I did. I love this one so much too. I used the embossing folder from, I think that's from Simon Says Stamp, and it's absolutely beautiful. And I love that hello from Altenew, and then the house is from, gosh, I can't remember. Is it Concord and Ninth? I can't remember that either. I'll have some of these linked down in the description box below for you. So I hope this 2-for-1 window pop-out card template works for you. If you try it, let me know. Now, don't go just yet. On screen, I have a couple of videos you might like, so be sure to check those out. And thanks for clicking that like button. That really helps my channel. If we are not already connected on Instagram and Facebook, I'd love to see you there too. Thanks for joining me today, and I will see you in the next video. Ciao for now.